What about if they go to CERT? And CERT people, 100% they are waiting for these people. Really, I didn't know, maybe people without, they cut the half of them.
The nearby town of Ras Lanuf has changed hands several times. It's now held by the rebels. According to locals, Gaddafi's men simply withdrew. Now most here are leaving, fearful of what is going to happen.
We are stuck in the middle between both sides and don't know where the bombs are coming from.
What started as a civil uprising is developing into an armed struggle, but not yet a civil war that many fear. The sound of jets above sends the rebels into defence mode, firing wildly into the air at a target they cannot see.
There's a military there. We're afraid of him. Let him, we come here to die.
But only 2 bombs that we know of were dropped, and both missed the large concentrations of fighters and hit the desert, and no one was hurt. Some are wondering whether the pilots are deliberately missing in sympathy with the rebellion. It's one of the many puzzling aspects to this conflict. Fighters, though, say Bin Jawad is only a temporary hold-up. They are preparing to take the fight onwards through Sirte, then Misrata, and then finally Tripoli. No one here, however, predicts what tomorrow may bring. Tony Bertley, AlJazeera, near Bin Jawad, north-central Libya.
Let's get some other news now. In Kuwait, youth groups are calling for protests. They want the Prime Minister to step down, and they're seeking greater freedoms. The Al Sabah family has ruled the small Gulf state for over 250 years. Political parties aren't allowed there, and neither is the planned demonstration. It's not been granted permission from the government. Opposition groups in Yemen are continuing their protests, demanding President Ali Abdullah Saleh to step down. There are reports that dozens of prisoners were injured when riot police fired warning shots and used batons to disperse protests in Sanaa's central jail. Inmates there have also been pushing for Saleh's resignation. He's rejected the call. A criminal court in Egypt has upheld a travel ban on ousted President Hosni Mubarak. The decision prevents Mubarak and his family from leaving Egypt. Their financial assets and property in Egypt have also been frozen. Now, former Iranian President Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani has lost his position as head of the powerful state clerical body which chooses Iran's supreme leader. Rafsanjani is accused of being too close to the reformist opposition. He's chaired the Assembly of Experts since 2007, but he has opposed the policies of President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Police in Pakistan have arrested a man over a bomb blast which killed at least 25 people. Officials say the man may also have been involved in a 2009 attack on a Sri Lankan cricket team. The explosion in the eastern city of Faisalabad happened at a gas station in a neighbourhood full of government buildings. About 100 people were injured in the attack. Many more are still trapped under the rubble. Kamal Haider has more from Islamabad.
It was very much an indiscriminate attack because they knew that once these explosives went off inside a gas station, it would have devastating effect, a near simultaneous sympathetic reaction, if you may like, because as soon as these explosives, once these explosives exploded, it just set off a chain reaction. Many cars parked there. There were people waiting in lines for their visas, passports, because there was a courier office close by. There was also a Pakistan International Airlines office close by, which received heavy damage. Most of that structure is on the ground, and of course the rescue efforts are right now concentrating on trying to find the dead and also to see if there's anybody who may still be trapped inside that rubble.
Kamal Haider there. Thanks for being with us. Plenty more to come this half hour, including change in Tunisia. A new caretaker government disbands the country's hated secret police. Will be live in Tunisia shortly. And new military trials at Guantanamo Bay. Business as usual at the controversial prison, which Barack Obama promised to close.
Well, the pesky weather has definitely been a problem across the southern parts of the Mediterranean. I want to show you the satellite image and show you where the big problem is going to be right now. Over the last 24 hours, Athens as well as Greece has been seeing most of the activity. In overnight hours between Monday night into Tuesday morning, that's when we saw the big problem across Greece. Heavy snowfall fell in this region, especially overnight. This was a holiday weekend. A lot of people were on the roads. The big problem is, will this snow melt before we get into the next following evening? Because if the snow does not melt, then we have a big problem. We're going to be seeing that liquid precipitation refreezing and could become very slippery. Yeah, as you can see here on the forecast map, Greece is not going to be getting any more snow. But again, will that snow melt enough before we get into the overnight hours? The snow, though, is going to be moving out here towards the east. Turkey, you're next in line to see some very heavy snow shower activity, as well into parts of the Middle East over the next couple of days. The rest of Europe not looking too bad. Vienna at 9, as well as Berlin looking about 11 degrees into your forecast. Now, very heavy windy conditions across the northwest into Morocco. An area of low pressure off the coast is going to cause some windy conditions there. Temperatures, though, very cool for Cairo. Look at you. You're getting it to temperatures of only about 17 degrees in your forecast.
The army has to prove they have no intentions of hijacking power and of keeping any remnants of the old regime.
From people making the news.
The earthquake happened over a year ago. Now you want to come back and help your fellow Haitians?
To those it affects.
If Washington doesn't begin to help stabilize the government, it will create a backlash.
Behind the headlines.
Neither the United States nor China can hurt the other without hurting itself.
Is the inside story at this time on Al Jazeera.
Mental disorders affect millions of Chinese citizens. But with a chronic lack of support, is this a social time bomb threatening to leave victims and broken families in its wake? 101 East at this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. You're watching Al Jazeera. Let's remind you of our top story now. Libya's opposition council says it's considering an offer from Colonel Gaddafi to step down if he can avoid prosecution and keep his assets. But the government's reportedly rejected the speculation that it wants to talk, calling the news absolute rubbish. Meanwhile, Gaddafi's forces are still launching airstrikes on Libya's rebel-held towns. AlJazeera is now reported to be surrounded by government forces. And in Ras Lanuf, witnesses say residents are fleeing as the town is shelled. Britain and France are pushing ahead with plans for a UN-backed no-fly zone over Libya, but China has said Libya's sovereignty must be respected, suggesting it would veto such a resolution. Now, Tunisia has a new cabinet, the third since the overthrow of President Ben Ali in January. And they've disbanded the country's secret police unit. Interim Prime Minister Beji Caid Sebsi named the interim ministers on Monday. Sebsi said the ministers were chosen in the public interest to see the country through until July elections. Well, one of the new cabinet members is Transport Minister Yassine Ibrahim, who joins me now live from Tunis. Good to have you with us, and